Hi everybody, Peter here once again. Thanks for joining me on Thailand Bound. If you've arrived here by accident, welcome. Today I'm going to be telling some true stories that viewers have sent in to me. And really guys, we are on a marathon today because since I put out that call a week or two ago, I said don't just send relationship stories, you might as well send everything in now. I've had a good response. So I've probably got 4 or 5 stories for you today, but some of them are real short. So I'm going to jump straight in, not waste any time. I'm going to kick off with the first story.
สวัสดีค่ะ
I am a 45-year-old heating engineer from South London and have been a regular visitor to Thailand since 2008. The story starts with the old cliche of splitting up with a long-term girlfriend and being lured by someone off to the land of smiles. In this case, it was my brother. We flew from Heathrow on a miserable February evening in 2008 with Eva Air. Having never been to the country before, I had no idea where we were going or what to expect, so I said to my brother, don't leave me on my own. Needless to say that after about an hour of arriving in Patpong, I was looking around and wandering around by myself. Basically, I had been thrown in at the deep end and didn't see him again until the following morning when he confessed to slipping off with a new friend that evening. After a few days in Bangkok, we flew down to Koh Samui for a week or so and then on to Pattaya to meet up with a group of guys my brother had met on a previous trip, who were regular visitors to Pattaya and happened to live just down the road from us in London. We had about a week there, then flew back to our normal lives in the UK and back to work. I had been bitten by the Thailand bug and had arrived with the holiday blues when I was back. So I decided to give notice at work, save some money, rented out my apartment and set off back to the land of smiles. By now, it was January 2009. I took the same flights as before with Eva Air from Heathrow. This time I was hobbling around on crutches after managing to crush my big toe after crashing into a stack of full beer barrels in a London bar on my leaving night from work. Yeah, I know, what a jerk. I arrived alone at Bangkok Airport on the 4th of January and headed for the DD Inn on Khao San Road on the recommendation of someone at work. I'm not sure if the hotel is still there. I've not been for a while, but I hear that Khao San Road is nothing like it used to be. I had a few boozy days there and then jumped on a bus and headed down to Pattaya without much of a plan other than to say as long as I could stay there until I ran out of money. That turned out to be about a year. I spent about 3 weeks in Pattaya before my broken toe had repaired itself to allow me to ditch the crutches and do a bit of travelling. I decided to take a trip to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Now I know that your channel is usually related to all things Thailand and this story takes us away from there, but I am hoping that you and your viewers will bear with me. I arrived at the international airport after a short flight from Bangkok, which I believe cost me 3,500 baht, if memory serves me correctly. I remember as we were coming into land, I could see lots of American military-style older vehicles parked up near the airport. Being a fan of the old Vietnam War movies, I thought to myself, I'm going to like it here. After collecting my backpack, I walked out of the airport and headed for the closest ATM as I had no Vietnamese dong on me. This turned out to be pretty confusing as the exchange rate was around 35,000 dong to £1 British, so you can imagine the amount of zeros involved when I withdrew what turned out to be about £300. I jumped into a taxi and I asked to be taken to the main area where tourists and backpackers go. I was dropped off and decided I had earned a few beers before I went off in search of a hotel. I had 3 or 4 local beers and I asked a lady working in the bar what was the best way for me to get a hotel. She recommended a motorbike taxi, so I jumped on one and off I went. When the motorbike stopped outside my hotel, I went to get off, but owing to the fact that I had an oversized backpack on my back, I fell over and I was laying on the pavement looking like a dead beetle. Getting myself up with a red face and pretending not to notice everyone laughing at me, I went into the hotel. After checking in and getting showered and changed, I ventured out in search of something to eat and the local nightlife. Still being alone, I didn't really know where I was going or what to do, so I just thought, hey, let's just see where I wind up. I always find that if you have the best time travelling when you are just, I find you have the best time travelling when you just throw yourself in at the deep end and just go with the flow. As I had never been to Vietnam before, I wasn't sure how safe the street food was where I should go to eat. This was back in 2009, remember? I hadn't really heard of the internet too much and hadn't done any research at all before leaving England. I came across a restaurant, it looked clean and I went in. Now I'm not the most adventurous person when it comes to foreign food, so when I saw lasagna on the menu, I ordered it, thinking, well, you can't go wrong with lasagna, right? At the time it seemed okay. I washed it down with a few more beers before my stomach started moaning and grumbling. Luckily, I made it back to my hotel without incident, and I don't want to be too graphic, but up until then I hadn't realised that projectile vomiting was something that could really happen. After a couple of days in my hotel room, mainly sitting on the toilet, I felt good enough to venture out again. As I hadn't eaten anything since that fateful lasagna, I was obviously famished, so again I went off looking for something to eat. Not wanting to risk any foreign food this time, on my already fragile stomach, I decided on KFC as the safest choice and went in. Now I know a lot of people will think I'm an idiot for getting myself into this from here on in, but at the time I was just thinking it was all just an experience, so I went with it. As I was queuing to order what I wanted, a Vietnamese man standing behind me started chatting to me, asking if I was alone. I replied yes, and he invited me to join him. His wife and her sister at the table while we ate, saying that the two women like to practice their English. I sat down with the three of them and we chatted for a while before the man's wife said, "Why have you come all the way to Vietnam to sit and eat Western food?" Obviously I didn't mention my previous meal, and when she offered to cook me authentic Vietnamese meal, I thought, why not? We walked around the corner and I go in their car and I was driven around lots of back streets and alleyways until I'd completely lost my bearings. Before stopping outside a Vietnamese style house, 3 or 4 floors, we went in and sat down on the ground floor. The two women went off to start cooking and I was left chatting with the man from the KFC and another man who had come down from upstairs to meet the strange Westerner they had brought home. After chatting for a while, the woman came back out with fish and rice, so we all sat down to eat. I was very hungry, even given the fact that I had just eaten the KFC. But not wanting to appear rude, I sat down and ate with my new friends. After we had eaten, the woman went off to clear up. The newcomer from upstairs told me that he worked as a croupier on a boat and asked if I played cards. Not being a gambler, I answered no, and he asked if I would like him to teach me how to play a particular Vietnamese game. After all these years, I can't remember the name of the game, but I had nothing better to do, so I agreed. The two men and I went upstairs to a room where he had a table set up covered with green felt. As we went in, I found that there was a third man already in there watching television. I said hello and sat down, although I was a bit surprised to find that the third man didn't seem as friendly as the others. He carried on watching TV as the croupier taught me how to play this card game. After about half an hour, I had the hang of the game and kept winning, and my new friend was saying I'm a natural. He said there is a way you can cheat and be a guaranteed winner with this game. He set about teaching me, and once I had sussed out, he said I should go to a casino and clean up. Being the polite Englishman, I didn't want to burst his bubble by telling him I didn't have any intention of going to a casino, so I said maybe, let's see. After about another 10 minutes, there was a knock at the door and a Vietnamese woman walked in wearing a business suit and started talking to the man in Vietnamese. Obviously, as it was my first time there, I didn't speak the language, so had no idea what was being said. The croupier turned to me and said, "I'm really sorry, but I have been tutoring this lady in the game. I have just been teaching you and I forgot she was coming today. Do you mind if she joins us?" By now I was losing interest in this game anyway and really was thinking of the best way to make my excuses and leave, but again, not wishing to appear rude, I said no problem. She sat down and the croupier dealt the cards. As we played a few hands, I was winning, although it was just fun for me. The sister of the man's wife from KFC was sitting next to me and holding my hand as if she was trying to comfort me. It seemed really strange, but I let it go. With that, the businesswoman reached into her briefcase and pulled out a stack of US dollar bills about an inch thick and placed them on the table. I looked at the croupier and he grinned back at me. When I asked what was going on, she said she wanted to play for money. At this, I explained that I didn't have money like that with me to cover the bets, and he said, come over here and have a chat with me. He explained to me that if I did the cheat that he had just taught me, I would win all the money and he and I could split it. I was feeling very uncomfortable at the mood in the room and the mood in the room had completely changed and everyone looked like they meant business. The television man was sitting in front of the door and all the smiles had disappeared. I looked at the open window thinking, shall I jump? But then remember we were 2 floors up. The businesswoman kept telling me, whatever happens, no hard feelings, right? And the croupier kept saying that gambling in Vietnam is illegal. In other words, don't go to the police. Obviously, by now, I decided that I needed to get out of this room. So I decided to say that we should head back to my hotel where I had money, US dollars, that would cover the bet. They all agreed and we got in the car and headed off to my hotel. As we pulled up, I pointed out the window and said, it's that one there, but I don't think the security guard at the main door will allow me to take other people inside. They agreed to wait in the car while I went in and I walked into the lobby of the hotel. I had pointed out and waited until a bus was blocking their view. I then slipped out the front of the hotel and into my actual hotel, which was next door. I went up to my room and I could see them waiting patiently in the car over the road. After about 40 minutes, they left, and to say I was relieved would be an understatement. I have no idea how much physical danger I had put myself in that day, because I have no idea if these people were just scammers or if they could have turned into something a bit more sinister. I decided the best thing to do was to pack my bag and get myself on the first flight back to Bangkok and then back down to the relative safety of Pattaya, where I pretty much spent the rest of the year drinking and chilling out with a girl I met working in a restaurant during my first week there. We are still together over 10 years later, so hopefully this will be one of the stories with a happy ending. I'm not sure if this is a common scam in Vietnam. I have never went back there since after visiting Thailand, Laos and Cambodia. Since then, I have never had anything like this happen to me anywhere else. I always feel that Thailand is a safe place to visit as long as you know your place and show respect to its people and their culture. Hopefully you will read my story out on your channel, and if I bump into you when we get back out to Thailand, maybe we can share a few beers. So that was a good story, wasn't it? A good warning there. I mean, he was quite a brave guy just going off on his own, but you know, some of these stories that aren't relationship stories are very nice to read out. So if you've got something similar, send it in to me.
สถานีต่อไปนานา Next station Nana.
Right guys, and a few girls I believe watch this channel. A Saturday morning wouldn't be the same without at least one relationship story, would it? So I've got one here. I'm going to read this to you. See what you think of this one. Hi Peter, Nick here. As I mentioned in a live stream recently, I'm sending you a few stories of mine. My English is not my strongest, but I'll do my best. I started to chat with a girl called Sukorn on Badoo while I was travelling around Thailand. I knew I was going to be returning to Phuket a few days later, so I decided that I would like to be with a girl I kind of already know from Badoo rather than meeting strangers. After a few days of talking to Sukorn online, we decided to meet up once I was back in Patpong. Honestly, I only wanted to have someone to hang out with, but she made it very clear that she would take care of me if I took care of her. I wasn't looking for an intimate relationship, and I was a little bit disappointed that she assumed that this is what I would be looking for. As I say, I was just looking for someone to have fun with while I was on the island, and of course I would have paid for her time. I met Sukorn at a local bar, we played a little pool, and after that we went to a large bar to watch a live band. Sukorn appeared to be very shy while she was with me, which I hadn't expected after the taking care reference online. But I like that she acted in a decent way. Sukorn asked me to meet her again the next day to have ice cream, which we did. I thought we were going to have an ice cream only the two of us together, so I was very surprised to see her mother had come along too. I felt a little awkward, especially when Sukorn's mother asked me if I planned to marry her daughter. In my head, I thought, dude, I don't even know her date of birth. We both laughed a little about it, and her mother kept talking about how nice we looked together and that she had also been married to a Belgian guy who regularly sent her money. Sukorn became my girlfriend, and I still have great memories of her. I think I wouldn't have seen so many locations without her company. She took me everywhere, from a Buddha Day ceremony to all the local night markets, restaurants, waterfalls, etc. I really enjoyed spending time with Sakorn, and I honestly feel that she enjoyed her time with me. I had only one conversation with her that I found a little strange. I must tell your viewers at this point I was actually sharing my hotel room with a friend, 2 single beds, so as to reduce costs. So I asked Sakorn as a joke, could you feel the same about my roommate as you do with me? Sakorn said no, because I know you. I then asked, well, what if you didn't know me? Then maybe yes, she said. I couldn't understand this because she loved me and then I was special, but apparently my roommate could have been special as well. Even if I'd stayed with her, I would be thinking about this, and I always listen to what my brain tells me and not my heart. One time I caught her using Tinder secretly while she was with me. She told me that it was only to make new friends which she was going to meet because she was with me. I didn't believe that for a minute, but as I was going back to Belgium in the next few days, I let it go. A few days before I left, Sakorn asked me to buy her a gold ring, which initially I wasn't going to, but one day I saw her sell several rings for cash. This made me feel really sorry for her, so being the sucker that I am, I finally bought one for her. Not because I thought about marrying her, but to give her something that she could exchange for money if she ever needed it after I had left. And although people will call me foolish, honestly, I would do it again. We all have this fantasy about what we think love should be. I have mine, and I'm sure Sakorn must have had hers. But I have never had to sell my possessions to buy food. To see Sakorn have to sell rings to buy food made me very sad indeed, and I will never judge her or how she lives. Although we had several fights and sometimes she could become very annoying, I wish her a good life and the best of luck, and would be very happy to meet her again if I return to Thailand. Of course, ensuring someone is with you because of feelings rather than money should always be very important, but sometimes it is so difficult not to let your heart rule your head.
Attention please. This is the final call of Thai Airways International Flight.
My friend and I arrived in Pattaya Phuket and had a one-night reservation in a hotel. Our plan was to stay there just the one night and then rent a room for 2 months at a much cheaper price. Unfortunately, when we arrived at the hotel, the staff could not find our reservation and the hotel was fully booked. We looked for another room for the night, but literally every hotel was full. After about 2 or 3 hours of walking around and unsuccessfully finding a vacant hotel to book into, we started worrying about a place to sleep that night. We decided to ask some locals for help and advice after explaining our current situation. What they did for us was incredible. They didn't only make calls to people to look for a room for us, they also closed their shop and took us to view the room on their scooters. I had all my money in cash on me and they could have easily robbed us if they wanted to, but they spent almost 2 hours with us searching for a room without asking for anything in return. We finally found a hotel room and give them 1,000 baht to thank them. Honestly, I would have given them 2,000 baht if I could go back in time. They even returned my friend's phone that he had forgot on the scooter and both of our passports. I can tell you many stories about the great Thai people I've met, but these couple of ones that I've just read out to you are my favourites. Okay, 2 more short stories left. This next one I'm going to read out to you is very, very short, and it's been sent to me by the same guy who was dating the lady Sakorn. After one night in Bangla Road, I was on my way back home with Sakorn, my girlfriend, and a friend of hers. The 3 of us on one scooter, of course with no helmets. At a checkpoint, the police stopped us as they were stopping everyone. The only thing they checked was my pockets. The policeman then asked me where I was from and if I was enjoying my vacation. While a lot of other Farangs were about to pay 1,000 baht fines because they weren't wearing helmets, he shook my hand and let me go. He just told me to buy a helmet for the next time and to keep enjoying my vacation. Very short, but wasn't that a very nice short little tale of a nice policeman? So there you go. All right, guys, we're going to jump straight into the last one now. And just a reminder, if you've got any stories, I'm running a little bit short, so I'd appreciate anything now, relationship stories or even short stories like this. Okay, so here's the last one for today. In January 2019, my brother and myself were in LK Metro. I won't mention the Australian name bar, but I'm sure regulars to Pattaya will guess. But anyway, it was earlier on in the night, maybe 2 drinks in, so went to another bar which was really very lively. We ordered a couple of drinks and I asked the waitress to put the 2 drinks onto one bill. Our drinks were 70 baht each. However, when the bill was presented to us, it said 280 baht. We'd only had 2 drinks and I tried my best to explain over the very loud music that we only ordered 2 beers and not 4. I received the usual dumb look you always get in Pattaya when staff don't have a clue what you are talking about, and of course that static smile. I tried to explain again over loud music, but this time much louder so that she could hear me better, only this brought its own problems as now people were looking over at me like I was giving her a hard time. This was 100% a scam because after speaking with the waitress for some time, 2 more beers suddenly turned up at our table, which we definitely did not order. The waitress then went on to justify the bill by saying we had ordered 4 beers and not 2. Unfortunately, when the first 2 beers came to the table with the bill in the pot, I did not check it. Had I done so, I would have spotted the scam right away. So to end, I will just say this. Many bars in Pattaya know that most of their customers are short-time tourists, and because of this, no attempt is made at looking after the customers long-term, which would be normal. Instead, it's a case of grab what you can today, as you won't see them again, and it's a lesson well learned. I don't know. I mean, don't forget it's a human factor as well, isn't it? I mean, they make mistakes. The music's loud for them as well, not only you. English isn't her mother tongue. Maybe she heard you say 4 beers. I'd have just paid for the 4 beers and let it go and took the 2 beers with me, or carried on enjoying them for another 10 minutes. But anyway, not to worry. So to everyone who sent these stories, I can't believe that's 5 stories this week, but they're very short, some of them. That's it for this week once again. I'll only just remind you later on today, today's Saturday obviously, Simon and I will be doing a live stream at 12 o'clock UK time, 7 p.m. Thai time, not on this channel, on the new channel. But what I'll do, there'll be a link to that channel in the description under this video. So all you need to do is click on that and that'll take you to the channel, and it will also automatically subscribe you. So I'll see you later, guys, and I hope you can join us for the chat. Join in the chat, and it's quite nice to communicate with you guys as well. Okay, thanks a lot, guys.